More and more people want to retire young. Let's check out some videos on this trend.
If you've had to earn money for a living and had any sort of job at all, you'll know what I'm talking about. There are two things I really hate. One, being told what to do, and two, dealing with people's BS. That's pretty much what a job is in a nutshell. The fun jobs don't really pay that well. The drama and pettiness from high school never really goes away. People just get older. And do you really want to spend 8 hours a day every single week for the rest of your life working with people you don't really like? Or would you rather be with your friends and family and do whatever you want? You might be one of the lucky few who found your calling, but for me, it was always to make as much money as possible and retire as early as possible.
So many of us dream about retiring in our 50s. Do you remember that commercial, the Freedom 55 commercial? And so many of us Gen Xers thought, yeah, that is the dream. Freedom 55, baby. But society tells us that we're not supposed to be retiring until we're in our 60s. But you know what? I said no. I wanted to retire earlier, and I did. But what is the truth about retiring early? I've had 4 years under my belt. I'm now 58. I was lucky enough to retire at 54. And I can tell you it's not always what people think. Our time is so valuable for us. We'll spend money to get our time back. So we'll get people to do things for us like shovel our snow, cut our grass, clean our house. If time is such a valuable commodity, why do we take it for granted? I think I can sum up my entire retirement in one word: freedom to live how I want, freedom to spend the time how you want to, freedom to wake up when your body wants you to, not from that stupid alarm going off in your ear. Jeepers, I hated that thing. So here's another factor. So many people think they need to have millions of dollars in the bank to be successful in their retirement. They're thinking, if I just work a little bit longer, if I just build up that retirement a little more. But you know what? When I sat down with the financial advisor 4 years ago, I realized that once we crunched the numbers, if I worked another year, I would actually be putting less money into my investments. Having enough is really the goal here. Not having a bazillion dollars, but just having enough and not risking your physical and mental well-being for the sake of making a few extra $100 a month in your retirement.
How did I do it? How did I retire at 48 years old? I'm going to make this as brief as I can because I have a very long video that is not brief. You can go watch that. I got started when I was 42 years old. Before that, I had no savings. I retired at 48. In that time, for 5 years, I had a six-figure income. Only 5 years. I also had RSUs as a part of my compensation plan. So stocks in my company as a part of my compensation plan at work. That was key. Now don't be mistaken, just because I had RSUs doesn't mean that's the only way I got there. Not true. I had to use my own income. I had to become an expert in my financial life and figure it out. And that's what I did. Right before I decided to focus on financial independence, I bought the home that I'm standing in now. What I did first was I paid off the $5,000 in credit card debt that I had after I left my marriage. Then I paid off the $15,000 used car that I had purchased. Then I paid off the $75,000 in student loan debt. I have a master's degree. Then I didn't have any more debt, so I decided to do what? Pay off my house. I paid off this house in 3 years. Sometime during the course of this debt payoff, I started my 401k and started investing there. And once my house was paid off and I was debt-free, I started investing 50% of my gross income. 50%. That 50% though, I maxed out my 401k to the IRS max contribution limits. My company allowed that. So in some of those years, I can't really remember, but I remember it starting at around $58,000. I put $58,000 or whatever the max was into my 401k. After that, I maxed out my IRA, whatever it was back then, probably $5,500 or something. Then, because I was running out of places to store my money, I started using the HSA healthcare plan at work. The HSA allowed me to save an additional $5,000 or so because my employer contributed some, and there's a max amount that you can contribute to an HSA. So that was maxed out. So then when my 401k, my IRA, and my HSA were maxed out, and I still had money left to save, I opened a brokerage account. The brokerage account was instrumental to my early retirement because you need to be 59 and a half to access your IRA and your 401k without penalty. So the brokerage account you can access at any time. So I knew that I needed to save a big amount there in order to bridge me from early retirement to 59 and a half. So the short answer and how I did it was I paid off my debts, all of them, including my house. I started saving money, and then I retired 5 to 6 years later. Not everyone has a 6-figure income. Not everyone has RSUs as a part of their compensation plan at a fintech organization. I recognize that. This is my story, and this is how I did it. Do I think that you can do it on a much less income? Absolutely. You might have to start earlier. You may have to be more intentional. But do I think you can do it? Absolutely. You can do it. If early retirement, or even retirement for that matter, is your goal, the key is to get started. Just get started. Nothing will ever happen if nothing ever happens. You have to set your goal and you have to be intentional. And if you put those things together, you too can make it happen.
Here are the top 3 ways to retire early. Number 1, this is the best one, and I recommend you choose this one if possible, and it's to be born rich. You're pretty much already retired at this point. All you have to do is be born to the right family and already have a lot of money. Number 2, trophy husband or wife. Now, this is a bit more difficult because you actually have to put some effort into yourself and find someone who's willing to marry you, specifically someone who has a lot of money. You might also get a bunch of crap from their family, but no job is still pretty much the best job. If neither of the previous 2 are available to you, lastly, you're going to have to get a job yourself, most likely in STEM. I personally recommend computer science, becoming an engineer, and working for a decade while saving most of your income. If it wasn't obvious, the last one is what I did. Good luck.
So, I see this article today, millennials want to retire at 50. Now, as a millennial who definitely wants to retire early, 50 ain't it. It's 40. The biggest question for early retirement is how much money do you actually need to retire? Now, there's a rule and it's called the 4% rule. If you can understand this, then you can start kicking on the beach sooner than you might think. 3 steps, follow closely. Step 1, determine your expected annual expenses when you retire. Costs for things like transportation, house, cars, kids, blah, 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 blah. Step 2, take those annual expenses and multiply by 25. That is the amount of money you need invested in a low-cost, broad-based market index fund. Step 3, go get that bag. Let's say annual expenses were $50,000. Multiply by 25, $1.25 million. That's how much money you need invested. The way it works is you can withdraw 4% of that. As long as it's in a market index fund, you should be okay and you'll never run out. Now, is this going to be easy? No, absolutely not. This is going to be very difficult because if you want to live like nobody else in your 40s, then you got to live like no one else in your 20s. How can you add additional sources of income? How can you invest? Let's say equities market. Let's say real estate. Can you pick up a side hustle? Because the reality is your W-2 job will never get you there. Be sure to keep following though for more of those income stream ideas.
If you really think about it, a retirement age of 65 doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
Listen to me, you need to be retiring as soon as you can. There is propaganda trying to convince you that because you are going to be living longer thanks to modern science, that you should continue to work well past the age of 65. Why? To pay bills? When are you going to enjoy your life? You need to save as much as you can so that you can retire as soon as possible. Otherwise, you're going to be old, graying, everything hurts, and you are working for a billionaire that has yachts. Not just one, but many. We are working for billionaires that have seen everything and done everything, and that's why they're all going to space and building these like doomsday bunkers to hoard all that money so that we can keep working and working until we die. Do not be convinced that you need to be working in your late 60s, 70s, 80s. For most of human existence, we've only ever worked 15 hours a week.
When I tell people I want to retire at 40, they laugh, but like, I have a plan. It costs me about $50,000 to exist. That's my bills, my mortgages, just to be here. But it cost me another $50,000 probably to travel, to spend, to splurge, just to have a little bit more money, some savings. I need about $100,000 to live off every single year. And to have that, I need $2.5 million invested. Now I have 1 point and a bit million invested already, so I can live off the 50K, but I need another million to get me there, and then I can retire by 40. And I know not everyone is lucky enough as me to have begun investing so young, but the truth is you can start now and you do not have to wait till 65 to retire, you can get there at 50, at 45, maybe even sooner. But it really pays to get started.
I don't know who needs to hear this, but there's one thing that I avoided all those years I was working. I'm kind of paying the price now. I did not prioritize my health. And now that I have the time, I'm retired, I am going to the doctor constantly. All those issues that simmer under the surface really come back with a vengeance. Make sure you get to the doctor. If you know someone that's not going to the doctor, share this with them.